Thank you. Tonight is September 15th, Thursday, 2022. It is 6:01 p.m. Call this meeting to order. Please have roll call, please.
Mr. Gentry. Mr. Darren.
Here.
Mr. Troy.
Here.
Mrs. Melendi.
Here.
Mrs. Maiorino.
Here.
Mr. Craddy.
Here.
Mr. Quagliano.
All right. With that said, I will make a motion to go into closed session at 6:02 p.m. Second. Mr. Craddy, roll call, please.
Mr. Craddy.
Yes.
Mr. Darren.
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi.
Yes.
Mrs. Maiorino.
Yes.
Mr. Troy.
Yes.
Mr. Gentry. Mr. Quagliano.
All right. We're in closed session until approximately 7 p.m. Thank you.
Okay, we're back from closed session. It is 7:01. Can we have roll call, please?
Mrs. Maiorino. Here. Mr. Grady.
Here.
Mr. Troy.
Here.
Mrs. Melendi. Here. Mr. Karen.
Here.
Mr. Gentry. Mr. Quagliano.
Here. Okay, there is no action out of closed session. So we will move to the Pledge of Allegiance. We have some high school students in. That's who's making all that noise. Okay, had a ruckus out there.
Good evening, everybody. Today I have with me some members of Link Crew. This is just a small crew. Link Crew is a very special and important group. They are the group that gets to bring in our freshmen every year. They run freshman orientation during Raider Rally, which takes place on a Friday for a half day. They do hours upon hours of training prior to, and then they are kind of the light for our freshmen throughout the first 3 quarters of the school year as they transition our freshmen in. So I'm going to have them come up and introduce themselves and just one quick thing they like about being a Link Crew leader.
Hi, I'm Samantha, and I like doing Link Crew to help the freshmen learn the new ways of school. Hi, I'm Alyssa, and I like to help guide the freshmen through their first year of high school.
Hi, I'm John. I like to be able to help the freshmen, and connect them on a personal level.
Hi, I'm Alexandra, and I like having the ability to leave a positive influence on the freshmen.
Hi, I'm Alyssa, and I like being a support system for the freshmen.
Hi, I'm Peyton, and I like to show the freshmen that they matter the most.
Very nice.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Oh, here we go. I'm on this right here. I found a spot.
Wonderful. Thanks, guys.
Link Crew, thank you.
Not used to going that fast.
It is, thank you. It has some legs too. Good coming out.
Okay, item 5 is public comment. We have several public comments tonight. Is everybody in the room? Who's in the room? Okay, not everybody's in the room. Start off with Rebecca Doherty.
Actually, can the son speak first?
I'm sorry?
My son speak first.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
He's Levi.
Yeah, Levi. Yep. Come on up, Levi.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
The picture you're holding in your hand is William, known as Picasso, I don't know his last name. He drives 3 hours from Bloomington, which that's a little excessive, to meet girls and boys from minors from my city, Huntley, and hangs out with a social worker from District 158. It's a counselor. Every time I've been in the council, I thought everything was confidential, wasn't supposed to be told to anybody else, but when you're FOIAing people's paperwork to other people, that's not really confidential. It's kind of giving away, putting minors in risk. And those are my friends personally. I know a lot of people from District 158. I thought schools were supposed to be a safe environment. I look at it towards that, but when you're giving a sex offender things about minors, information that's not supposed to be, like, passed around to anybody, that's not really confidential in my opinion. I guess that's really all I have to say. I mean, I don't know. I'm stuck for words.
Okay, you got time. Take your time.
Oh, even when he's a sex offender on his identification, getting information from minors, that's all really. I mean, I can't really think of something else. Thanks for your time, though.
Okay, thank you for coming. Thank you.
I'd like to read a script that is the subject that my son is talking about. His information was FOIA'd about a month ago, and D-158 didn't tell us about it. This gentleman is a sex predator who raped a 7-year-old. The picture in front of you explains the social worker he was connected with to D-158. The police report that I'm holding in my hand that put him to 12 years in prison, you guys have allowed to have access to school files underneath a false name. We've reported this to the police department. The school staff at D-158 has failed to protect our children. The script that I have is while leaving the garage, my attention was drawn to a maroon Ford Explorer. I noticed the back seat area was stowed away and there was a tripod to a camera laying flat. I glanced over of the area's residents. The only item that looked out of the place were 2 bags of girls' undergarments and 1 box that had a female wig in it, which was located on the floor of his bedroom closet. Some of the girls' underwear were soiled and some had cuts in them where the crotch area is. I took a digital photograph of the bags with the girls' underwear and later attached them to this report. I questioned about the girls' underwear that was inside his closet. After several attempts to get him to answer the question, he responded that he wears the underwear as a fetish. This gentleman literally has used his way through a FOIA, through your district, to gather information. Literally, our district has spent $490 to expose our children to a sex offender. Why would we do that? We have notified the school, Lake in the Hills Police Department, back in February in 2022. Sarah even read the report and notified the sex offenders. I thought our children that we discuss with our teachers are safe and protect them from monsters like this. Obviously not. It's been written down and you guys agreed that he could have our FOIAs, which was $490 of our tax money. Why? I don't know. Emails that we discussed with our staff, with our teachers and our peers, like telling them important situations about death, families, food, what our children like. This gentleman is physically getting it. And we don't know what he's going to do with it. We don't know what this gentleman looks like, only by his registries. And we don't even know where this gentleman is exactly at this moment in time. But he FOIA'd all our information, and now my son, who is going to be attending, is literally going to be worried what is going to take place with him. Is his state stuff going to be safe with his teachers, with his staff members? How do you expect these children to actually speak to a counselor when only thing they have to do, another sex predator, only thing they have to do is FOIA it up? That's all I have to say.
Donna Napier.
Good evening. My name is Donna Napier, and I'm a member of the District 158 Parents Union. I wanted to address you tonight regarding the neglect of academics going on in the schools. The performance levels and grades in this district have plummeted, and here we are worrying about pronouns and what animal someone feels like being that day. You want to talk about unity and inclusion? How about we talk about how we all want at Huntley schools and not worry about who wants to be called him, her, it, them that day and causing more division? How about we just worry about we as Huntley students and keep focusing on giving and getting the best education there is to our children? This noise needs to stop, and we need to focus on what really matters, and that is children getting an education and being able to be productive members of society. I'm a 911 dispatcher, and I will tell you that if someone calls and says there's a person out in public barking and saying they are a dog, they're not going to be allowed to just be out there barking and carrying on like a dog. Police will respond, as well as paramedics for a psychiatric eval. So if that is a real-world reaction to someone who wants to act and be a dog for the day, why are you allowing it to happen in your school? You're telling these children that this is acceptable behavior, and they'll go out in the real world, and society does not find this acceptable. You're setting them up for failure. There's no place in schools. It's just causing distraction away from their education. Let me ask you, if you had a person standing in your front yard howling at the moon and acting like a wolf, are you going to go out there and pet him and tell him he's a good boy, or are you calling the police and saying there's a crazy person in my front yard? Stop allowing this nonsense to continue and stop putting a spotlight on it like it's something to strive to be. Now, I've already had a conversation with Dr. Rowe through emails, but I wanted to bring this up here as well. They're spending time in music class singing about what pronouns should be used to address one another rather than spending time learning about Mozart and Bach and the impact they had on music. This is an absolute joke and an insult towards children's education, and that they should be receiving. There should be zero time wasted on this nonsense. These kids could care less about this stuff, but because the school district wants to draw such attention to it and make it a big deal, it's becoming a big deal to these kids. You guys are causing this. You are the ones who set the standards for what is important in school, which should be nothing but academics. Other things such as gender identity and sexuality are not the school's place or business to be discussing with children. This is known as grooming. If my children ever comes home and tells me any of these types of things are discussed with him and is also told that his parents won't have to know anything, I can promise you that I will be at that school so fast with a police officer, it would be, your head would spin. So please, I don't care what you believe or what you do in your own personal time, but none of this belongs at our school. My son is in 3rd grade, and since he started, my child has not come home with a single piece of homework. Why is that? No spelling words to work on, no writing, no math homework. But here we are worrying about pronouns as you sit here and watch these students' academic achievements drop like a rock. It is so pathetic. And what's worse is that I have to supplement my child's academics at home when you guys sit here and talk about being a destination school. It's so sad, guys. Academics, that's the focus. Thank you.
Joe Cataldo.
Hey, everyone. We actually have a joint statement to read tonight from the parent union, and so we don't go over our time. We're splitting it among 3. Is that okay? Mm-hmm. Okay, but I will start. I'm Jill Cataldo, and I am reading a joint statement written by numerous members of the D158 parent union. We depend on the school board for leadership, but what so many of us are seeing is a failure to lead and a willingness to bend to whatever nonsensical fad or whim is being pushed by a specific political agenda. When our parents present concerns about children dressing as furries, wearing costumes with full horse heads, hooves, making animal noises, you, Dr. Rose, stated, we are supporting kids, which we're for, but if we're not supportive, we're going to lose them. No. Kids need guidance and boundaries from their authority figures. Do you realize what other local schools are doing? A Marengo high schooler spent the entire first day of school this year dressed as a parrot, squawking and demanding to be referred to as a bird. Teacher after teacher told her, no, we're not doing that here. She has since stopped dressing as a parrot. Recently, a Conley music teacher taught elementary school children a song where they were asked to identify their personal pronouns. This is elementary school. We had many parents upset. One parent, again, emailed Dr. Rowe, And you replied, this was a teacher attempting to create an inclusive environment and make sure all students feel welcomed. Do you guys realize how many students and families you are making uncomfortable with these new policies? So many of our parents are outraged. These concepts of alternate pronouns and genders are not only extremely confusing for young children, but they have no basis in science, and there is no data available yet on whether or not teaching these concepts is beneficial or harmful to children. You and we won't know for years. So who are you taking your cues from on the furries, the pronouns, and the supposed myriad of genders? You must be aware of the turmoil surrounding these ideologies in this country right now, and choosing to respond that this creates an inclusive environment is adding fuel to the fire. Are you aware also that our parents have been emailing principals directly in the schools about the pronouns, and the Legee principal has been writing back assuring parents that nothing like this will be happening at his school?
Remember when D158 wanted to have the high school graduation at Willow Creek? All it took were 2 political operatives to speak at this meeting, people who didn't even live in our district, to say that the idea of graduation in a church made them uncomfortable. This district, this board, said they didn't want one student to feel uncomfortable in a place of worship, yet our children are uncomfortable in school about the leftist indoctrination that is marching along at a rapid pace. What happened to if even one student is uncomfortable? It ends. Students are uncomfortable. So many of the parents who are new to our group have been seeking out help, and they're saying the same things. Rogue teachers are pushing this on the children, and without the board and the administration taking a hard line against it, it appears there is no line you'll stand behind. Are you aware that a 7th grade teacher at Marlowe has been exhibiting grooming behaviors towards students? She has been talking about her lesbian parents' lifestyle with her students, and she's also stated that, if you have questions about sexuality, come talk to me. You can trust me. I won't tell your parents. Is she a professional counselor? Our parents do not want this teacher influencing 11-year-olds with sex life stories. Are you aware that yesterday a Huntley High School teacher gave an assignment with LGBT themes, and if the students agreed that the LGBT themes were appropriate for a government-related topic, the teacher gave the students the answers to the rest of the work packet. If the students said no, they should not be part of the assignment, she told them that they would receive no help on the rest of the packet.
Our district needs boundaries. Last summer, some of us met with you, Dr. Rowe, with concerns on the political slant that was being pushed in the schools, particularly with regards to sexuality. At that time, you said, it's the way society is going. Last night at our meeting, one of our parents said, no, the school is now deliberately shaping society by promoting these views to young children. Psychologists are calling this a social contagion. Kids jumping on this gender identity trend are given positive attention and praise, which encourages more kids to identify with it. Consistently, over and over, we hear that D158 schools need to get back to academics, just academics. How can this focus be restored? School districts around the country have begun abandoning these ideologies. Okay. Want me to jump down here this one?
No, you're fine here.
Okay.
Just put there.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's right.
Last minute notes.
That's right. Ideology. One in Wisconsin made national news after the board voted to ban pronouns, gender, and pride gender discussion under the banner of stopping promotion, partisan politics. We want to see you do the same. Take a stand on this. At this point, what will result in change here in D158? Because speaking at you month after month doesn't. Clearly, you are allowing a highly partisan agenda of social contagion to take root, and in the name of equity and inclusivity, you are making no proactive efforts to prevent it. All of this could end if you're simply committed to making your sole focus academics and staying out of politicized lifestyle choices. Our group is committed to continuing to stand up for what is right and best for our kids. When will you? Thank you.
All three of their names for the record.
Although Danny, across. Okay.
Let me know so I can write it.
Yeah, I got all three. And then lastly, we have Carrie Cross.
Hello. I wanted to address the email that came out yesterday about the seesaw incident. We understand that it wasn't just a District 158 thing, and it was across the board for seesaw. However, what I don't understand is why that email wasn't also text and sent in a phone call, and why it wasn't explained that it was not just an inappropriate matter, that it was a pornographic picture, and it was pretty vile, that was shared. And I don't know if any of our students had access to it or not, but the proper information and true, honest communication with parents so that they understood what their child could have seen, some of your children could have seen, should have been communicated. We got text, emails, phone calls last year when every and any bus was late coming home. But this content wasn't shared. I don't understand how you guys pick and choose what is important. How is that not important? You guys have to understand that that was targeting young kids. Seesaw isn't used in the high school. That was a specific attack by someone, obviously not you guys. I'm not blaming you guys for the attack, but we have to do better. Everyone knows here that my passions are special ed and the technology, and I've been saying it now as long as I've been coming here. I've asked for warning labels, nothing has happened. How do you guys expect us to trust you with the best testing and the suicide or the tip lines to be confidential? We know that not everything is safe. The internet isn't safe. We have no way to be able to say that that information isn't going to be exposed. We have to do better, and we have to be transparent, and you have to be honest. I also wanted to address the plethora of LGBTQ flagged books at Marlowe. On the night of the parent-teacher, I went in there and I looked around, and just on one shelf alone, the amount of books with the sticker literally calling attention to kids to say, pick me, pick me, pick me. Or if we genuinely had a child who was struggling with maybe they are something, maybe they aren't, now everyone would know. That's not confidential. You guys are the ones that said we couldn't celebrate autism awareness because we didn't want to out people. But now we have the stickers on there outing everybody. You guys can't. It's just, I have the video. It's information, it's not hearsay. I walked around, took the video in the library. Lastly, next month is October, Down Syndrome Awareness Month and Disability Awareness Month, as we celebrated here. I can't wait for the daily Rad post about the inclusion you guys are all planning. I hope that it is really something and that we actually say what we do and do inclusion.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. Okay, we're on to revision and adoption of the agenda. Here, I understand everyone who's listed here has a report. I know Debbie does not. Okay, so we'll item 11. Sean, you said you had no legislative. Okay. Any other items on the agenda that anybody needs removed? And I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the removal of item 11 and item 17. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Myrino. Can we have roll call?
Mrs. Myrino?
Yes.
Mr. Craddy?
Yes.
Mr. Troy?
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi?
Yes.
Mr. Guerin?
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano?
Yes.
Mr. Gentry?
Okay. Accepted. Item 7, superintendent's report.
All right, a couple things here. First, I'd like to comment on the FOIA comment this evening for clarity, and I will reach out to Ms. Doherty since she left to be sure this is clear. But what information is FOIA, confidential information, is redacted, including student names and personal information. You know, there are laws that bound what we are required to submit to a FOIA, and also identifiable information and student names are not released in FOIA. So the information that they claim that this gentleman was seeking would not have been released, but we will reach out and connect with her so she's aware of that, and hopefully that can put her at ease. All right, moving on. The culture of learning. We spoke about the culture of learning a little bit at the last meeting, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the start of the school year and share some information about just what that looked like. So to kick off the year, it's been filled with intentional acts, with structure, with sharing of expectations with our students, focusing on the culture of learning and how to be successful. But with strong academic outcomes, you know, we just wanted to start a little fun and connectivity as people, which is purposeful and ultimately will pay dividends not only in the function of the building, but in the student growth that we expect to see. So with that, I wanted to, Alex and Kimmy put together a brief video with some feedback from our staff and students about how the school year started. I wanted to share that with you this evening.
We're excited for you all to be here, and I brought everybody here to say, have a happy Father's Day! We don't know what you've been told.
There was so much energy, there was so much excitement, it felt almost electric. Kids were laughing, kids were together, lots of teamwork activities, lots of movement.
We did a lot of team building, like games. We did like Minute to Win It. During the day, we just did like get to know your teacher, get to know like other students.
The students are more open and willing and wanting to take in what, you know, they're giving them, and they have developed those relationships with them.
A lot of people made a lot of new friends. They got to like know a lot more like about their friends.
I believe that we can lead. I believe that we can lead. I believe
It felt really purposeful that we were taking the time to get to know one another, to get back into those healthy habits that make schools run.
And then I feel like I have this connection to them. So then when we go to talk about music, they're more open to answering my questions or having a discussion about what we're learning.
Culture of learning means get along with everybody and make friends and be nice to everybody.
Now I'm closer with people in my classes and my teachers.
I have been here over 20 years, and this to me has been the best start of the school year.
I like to do this leading into every school year because you get to know your students and teachers a lot better, and it's just fun.
I think we're off to an awesome start.
All right, and now we are off and running. And after the first couple of days of school year with some of the fun activities to form those connections in the classroom, buildings continue to be off and running, as I said. So just wanted to give you a little exposure to what that looked like and bring you into our world a little bit. That's all I have.
Dr. Rowe. Okay, we're on to 8, Lombard, Associate Superintendent's report.
Sure, Dr. Rowe kind of highlighted some of the things that are going on in the buildings and kind of getting a glimpse as to what our students and our staff are experiencing there. And it's quite unusual to say we're going to be hitting the 6th week of school starting next week, and this has gone really, really fast. But I'll steal Mrs. Kennefick's word. It's one of the best starts of the school year that I've seen in the 20-something years being here, and so that's really great. Some of the things I want to highlight are some of the behind-the-scenes things that we've been doing in some of our departments, just as some updates. As you know, transportation began rolling out one of the first phase of the My Stop app, and those first couple of weeks there were some glitches. There were some things dependent on the type of phone that you had, with some server issues that we were having, and then we noticed some issues just with the 3 legs that we have over on the Reed Road campus, going from Marlow to Martin to Sussex. Some of the buses were kind of capturing some of the times of the next schools there. And so working with technology and Tyler Technology, Transportation's ironed out most of those. We have a few glitches that we're working with. Specific families have reached out with us. And one of the things we'll probably be moving to in the very near future is housing that server information just for better customer service to outside. So it wouldn't be on our servers competing with everything else we've got going on. And talking with, I believe it was McKenna School District, that was one of the things that they looked at, and it really ironed out those little glitches that were happening there. And so looking at just making that a better customer service support for our families. And then once those are tweaked, we'll be rolling out phase 2, which is that communication notification, where it'll be kind of like that one-stop shop instead of sending out things through our Swift Reach alert solutions with PowerSchool. All the transportation things will be kind of all together in that one app there, and making some of that communication just much easier for our families there. One of the things in transportation that is a struggle, but we're seeing a glimmer of hope, is that hiring component. And right now we have 6 people that are in various phases of the hiring process. I know that's about half of what we want, and a couple more to have some cushion there, but that's really promising news based on some of our past years about how difficult it is to hire, and some things that were part of that recruiting process that have been effective. We did get a lot of interest when the bus was parked out outside the old Union Special area there. So Laura Hooper has reached out to a variety of different entities, and you'll probably notice some buses kind of moving around our community to try to highlight and have that advertisement out at some different locations. As well as, was it last week, Dr. Zare, we had 4 days of an advertisement through Star 105.5, so getting it out through the radio as well. And then we are working with the communications department to put together a marketing recruiting video, kind of like a day in the life of a bus driver, kind of following along and getting some feedback from some of our drivers, and hopefully trying to recruit again. So really trying to hit different medias out there to fill those final positions there, but very, very promising. Not quite there yet, but it's been a while since we've been getting so many bites on that position there. So that's really, really key. Then on a different note, just as you may recall, we've expanded our partnering with Partners for Prevention for the drug screening component for our extracurricular and athletics. So the high school's been working very, very closely with Partners for Prevention to make that a seamless transition from Northwestern to Partners for Prevention. Notification will be going out to all of our families and students that are involved in anything fall, and then the activities, and then they have that process for each one of the next seasons coming up as well. And once those things are kind of finalized here within the next few days, our goal to have the first testing cycle will be end of September, beginning of October there. And so those things will be underway here very, very soon. And those are just a couple of the behind-the-scenes things that support those great things that we're seeing out in the buildings. There's so many things to highlight that District 158 and our community should be really proud of what our students and staff have done in these 5 weeks already. So that's all I have tonight.
Real quick question.
Sure.
So I'll use the term, do we still have like dual routes running, or?
We have a few.
A few?
Yeah.
How many is a few? Is it?
I think the last I counted, there were 4 of those, so the legs would be, and they are at our secondary level.
Yeah, so now that we're a little bit more refined into how are those dual routes going? Do we still run into issues with getting kids in on time?
The on time is better. It's I think there was one that was coming in right as school was starting, but we wanted to make sure it was pushed back a few more minutes so that the kids were not only in the parking lot, but actually were feeling comfortable going into class and not being late and missing those first few things. It's the afternoon that's a little bit more of a struggle, where we have to double up on those things at the secondary level. Athletic activities are under full swing now, and so that does pull from some of our resources. And then if we do, not from what it's not been too bad, but if we do have higher absenteeism dates on top of those athletic components, that's where we're going to see more of an issue. We're trying, not that we want any one bus, but rather than rotating and sharing the wealth of being kind of that bus who is pushed back a little bit that day, to try to narrow that down just to a couple, and it's consistent because it's easier for families to plan for that rather than is it my day today or not. So we just had a few of those left, Tony. We've got our list of who's the next one, the next one, the next one to cross off to ease that burden as we get these new employees hired.
Okay, good. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
A couple questions. Partnering for prevention, so you said the athletic testing is going. Is the other side of it with the regular drug screening and the counseling?
That's already, that started, I want to say that we had somebody day one, but that was ready to go.
So
and now it's that transition from Northwestern.
She's already started working with students within the district for that. And what about care solace? Is that up and running yet?
I'm going to throw that to Dr. Del Castillo when we get to that one. I don't want to misspeak. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Anything further for? Okay. On to item 9 and Dr. Zielinski.
Good evening. A couple updates tonight from the 612 curriculum group. We have launched Carnegie Math at the middle school and high school. They've been implementing the new Carnegie Math curriculum. Carnegie Learning delivers a different brand of learning that combines collaborative group learning with focused individual learning. It's been really well received so far. We took a few quotes from some students. They said things like, I really like sitting with my friends and working on math together. My teacher is now making math fun. They've mentioned that Mathia is a little bit tricky, but they know how to ask for hints now. They're learning that program. Teachers were excited that kids are talking about math. The engagements of students has gone way up. Along with the new curriculum, our teachers have been embracing and taking on the challenge of new instructional strategies aligned to the Huntley 158 math vision. Thank you to our teachers, our instructional coaches, and our administrators for a great start to the school year with math. Second item I wanted to bring to the attention is a combination work with Dr. McCrindle in K-12. We have been collaborating with school principals and teams to support the school improvement plan and process. We're in full swing with that. Teams will be sharing their goals this fall centered around English and math academic growth, as well as social, emotional, and cultural goals. Each goal centers around 3 questions. 1, why was the goal chosen? 2, what impact will this have from an equity lens? Then 3, what are the potential action plan activities? So we'll continue that work, and we look forward to supporting K-12 through the school improvement process. Thank you.
Great. Great. Just real quick on the Carnegie Math.
Yes, sir.
I'm always interested in math. So what element of it do you think is garnering the excitement? I mean, what?
You know, the rooms that I've been in, the rooms and our instructional coaches and administration has been in, it allows time and space for discussion around concepts. Okay. And I've really seen the classroom teachers take a step back and allow math to happen with the students. And you just see that thought. Being on the board. Yeah, sure. And I think you see that thought happening and that academic struggle occurring and knowing that that's a safe place to do it. The curriculum's fantastic. The technology support around it is wonderful. And kids are doing the math in a safe place with their teachers and with their peers. Really exciting.
Yeah. Excellent.
Thank you.
Good to hear. Anybody else? Thank you very much.
You better.
Dr. McCrindle.
Hi, good evening. I'm also going to provide an update regarding the K-5 math. If you remember, we have about a third of our teachers who are our math leaders at the K-5 level, which is about 49 classroom teachers who have made the shift to utilizing illustrative math this year. And so this was, if you remember, it's a problem-based math curriculum, which maintains a focus on ensuring rigor and coherence to the standards. This shift in design of instruction has required professional learning and planning that began last year, and it's continued throughout the summer, and then we're doing it throughout this whole school year for that team of teachers. Already in this first month, we have seen many positive shifts in regards to students' number sense, their math talk and ability to discuss math, and then their ability to productively struggle, that it's okay if you don't get it right away. Our teachers are saying things like kids love math and they're loving centers, similar to what Dr. Zwemke said, that kids are talking to each other about math, that students are using and writing with strong math vocabulary. And then one of my favorite goals as teachers that I'm actually learning a lot more about my students because I'm able to interact and talk to them about what they're learning. Our students are saying that math is fun. I like thinking of different ways to do things, and it's fun to have something new to do every day in math. And so as with all new curriculum changes, we've been addressing some challenges with the actual physical materials and the the technology, digital components, but we've set up some problem-solving meetings and we're working with teachers to get feedback on that and helping to support teachers in structuring time, kind of something you'll hear. It's been a huge lift for our math leaders because they're concurrently working on literacy and math instruction this school year, and it involves a commitment for them to not just say yes, but they're being open to shifting their instruction to participate in additional professional learning and taking risks. So a huge thank you to those teachers, and thank you to our instructional coaches and admin who are working to grow their knowledge and to do whatever it takes to support our teachers and our students. So we're excited about how well that's going. I'm also going to discuss some of our preliminary academic data at a K-12 level. Our buildings have started to analyze our reading and math data at the K-12 level. Building teams are meeting to look at the Tier 1, 2, and 3 needs of students, to set some team goals, and to create action steps for how they can shift instruction to meet our students' needs. An initial review of our data does show that many of our students are approaching and some are even exceeding some of our pre-pandemic scores, which is very exciting. We're finding in general that our math scores are recovering more quickly as compared to literacy, which makes sense when we think about how we teach kids to read and what goes into that process of them learning to read and reading to learn from their perspective. So our next steps include some further analysis of that data so we can pinpoint specific areas that we can support, as well as analysis into the social emotional data and that impact. An in-depth presentation will be provided in November at our board meeting, where we'll be able to show specific strengths and areas of growth to you, and we'll be able to also explain our school report card, which the state releases to the public on October 27th during that presentation. That's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. McCrindle. Yeah, go ahead.
Dr. McCrindle, could you quickly, just briefly, don't go into in-depth, but just touch a little bit on maybe the differences of the different tiers, 1, 2, and 3 that kind of go in there? I mean, I don't want to make it like a long, drawn out, but just something just so that anybody that's watching or here listening that may not understand that.
Absolutely. So when we look at our data, we group students into tiers. So tier 1 would be where the majority of our students fall, where we would expect, and that generally can range, you hope for about 80% of our students kind of being in that area. Tier 2 are students that might need a little bit more targeted support, which means they might need a couple days a week of reteaching, enriching with a teacher or with another staff member to help them grow. And then tier 3 is more intensive support, which might be 5 days a week of that support from either a certified interventionist or teacher to help them grow in those areas of reading and math.
Thank you for
The
clarifying that.
important thing to note, that, to your point, Ms. Mario, is after getting to that tier 3, if the student's still not finding the level of success needed to head back towards tier 1, that's when we might consider opening a domain and entering into the special education world. But prior to that, it's all regular education.
Thank you.
Oh, you don't want to add libs on? Item 12, Dr. Zero.
Good evening. My update centers around staff wellness. I just wanted to give the board an update. We are in the middle of getting our staff wellness screening set up for the month of October. Northwestern comes on site to do that in the buildings, and so very convenient for our staff, and they can also do it off-site too. This is our 7th year doing the wellness screening. We've partnered with Northwestern all 7 years, so we've had some very positive feedback from that. And as we have a couple weeks left for sign up, we've got 564 staff members ready to go through the wellness screening. So always very excited about that and the personal feedback that they get from those screenings.
Dr. Zier. Blazinski, and our enrollment.
Sure, thank you very much. It's that time of year where I get to come and talk about the number of students we have and to count them. So each year we have each of our schools and the office staff in our schools to kind of take a deep dive through enrollments and attendance records for those first 6 days of school. Just to make sure we have everything matched up, all of our T's crossed, I's dotted. These numbers give us a good comparative from year to year, the trends in enrollments that we're seeing. Big takeaways from this year, so if you look at the kind of longer grade level breakdown on the first page of the data, some good news to report. Kindergarten through 9th grade, every grade level actually increased in student size from the grade level last year. That's good for us in that we're starting to see what we think is potentially a plateauing of enrollment. That said, I'm going to say now that our overall enrollment still went down compared to this time last year. But if you think back to the last 2 or 3 years I've been doing these updates, those decreases in overall enrollment have been to 200, 300 students.
Right.
This year's closer to 80. So it's a much smaller decrease than we've been seeing. Vast majority of that is high school. It's entirely graduating class. Yes, entirely. When you compare graduating class that we had this past spring to the 556 kindergartners that come in, that's more than 200 student difference. So we're offsetting a fair amount of that with increases in enrollments across the district. Like I said, we've been kind of picturing an idea that enrollments would start to plateau. Obviously, over the last year and a half, we've started to have some development happening around how we're watching those closely. We're finding some opportunities to track student movement across the district. So if new homes are being built, we have some ability to track and see our students moving from within the district to a different part of the district into those new homes being built. It's not a perfect system, but we have the ability to track some of that. And we are seeing some of that. We're seeing a number of families that are repositioning within the district. That's also making room in our district for a lot of these move-ins that we're seeing. So we're happy to see that. Enrollment numbers aren't on the upward trend on the overall yet, but a decrease of 80 is a lot different than a decrease of 300, which we've been seeing. So we're excited to see that. I will say also that these are we call these 6-day enrollment numbers. That it's a report that our district runs. When official state data is reported, they will use October 1st as the report date. We do these reports as a benefit to our district so we can get data much more quickly than what we would see in the state system. There will be some fluctuations between these numbers and what's reported with the state because they take that data directly from the state systems. So once that data is all collected at the state level, we true up our numbers again and we constantly keep them. Those are the numbers that will actually be reported in the report card next year. That's why sometimes we see a little bit of a difference between these 6-day enrollments and what the state says our enrollment is. They're not usually far off. I want to say we've probably enrolled 15 or 20 students since the school year started. We've had 2 or 3 leads so far, so I'm still on an upward trend. And then we always watch our friends in the preschool. At 179, I think it was 179 students at the preschool starting. That number will increase by almost 100 through the course of the year. It does every single year. So we don't add preschool students right up to the last week of school. So that's a number that we always see increase as the year goes on. So we're looking forward to seeing that happen as well. That's 6-day enrollment. Happy to answer your questions.
I don't know if I have any questions. The comment would be, what I see is just really, I just see very stable numbers throughout. It's really just a function of, you'll see a little bit of decrease continue with the high school graduating, and it just depends on how big a kindergarten class, but that's a pretty big jump.
Yeah.
502 to 556.
That's a pretty significant increase for a kindergarten size class. And what you see in the high school class sizes, that's we call it the bubble of students. Since those students started elementary, we've been watching them all the way through.
Right.
So Mr. Quigley, I don't think you're exactly right. I mean, seeing more stable numbers will certainly help.
Yeah, all the buildings are pretty, I mean, they're other than possibly McGee, all these buildings aren't, they're not really that bad right now. They're kind of real good place.
Yeah, Lee's the one that we watched kind of the closest.
Right, on student. That the combo of what new housing and being. I know you guys have had discussions about should developments with a lot more kids and mindful of McGee and possibly steering newer subdivisions possibly to different schools. That's all part of it.
There's a lot of things on the table, but if we were to make any kind of recommendation like that, we of course would come here for a formal action. But just we pay attention to McGee, and you'll notice in the class sizes, if you look at teacher ratio, those are typically about the average class size in the elementary classrooms. Our class size is really good. So within each grade level, there's room for a little bit more growth at each building. And McGee, as you mentioned, is probably the tightest of all, but also being our only K-5 building, it's just a different dynamic. But we pay very close attention to it over there. Mr. Higgins is all over it, and reminds us regularly of where their stretch goals are.
Good. Do you have any questions or comments? Really? Thank you. Dr. Item 14, Castillo.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share some of the projects and initiatives Special Services is working on. The first one is the BEST update. So this is our second year of assessing our students with the behavioral and emotional screening system, BEST. The BEST serves as our social, emotional, and behavioral screener for all the students, pre-K through 12th grade. We talked about before that the purpose of the screener is to get a better insight in our students' social, emotional, and behavioral needs as means to better support them. This is a preliminary step for identifying from all the students those who may be at risk or need additional support from us. Like any academic screening, the BEST serves as a single data point we consider a student's social, emotional, and behavioral needs. When reviewing the BEST data, building level teams also take into consideration other factors like a student's attendance, academic data, and information from teachers, but also from parents. Using the BEST assists us in better understanding all our students' needs, but on a universal level, as well as identifying those who may be in need of additional support. At the elementary level, our teachers the teachers are the ones that are filling out the screening forms, while at the secondary level, our students will be completing the self-screening form themselves. Our screening window is set for Monday, September 26th through Friday, October 14th. Parents continue to have the option to opt their children out of BEST screening, so they don't want them to participate. An overview of the BEST and link to our opt-out form was shared with families on Wednesday, September 7th. To date, 459 students have been opted out for this school year, which accounts for about 5% of the student population, and looks very similar to our numbers from last year. Now, today also we want to share about RAD. The goal of District 159 Recognizing American Diversity is to recognize, celebrate, and discover diverse perspectives and identities from our students. As we continue to grow our efforts throughout the district, we have some new and exciting updates for this year. This year, Rad is working to identify and share content for all the students. They're sharing engagement opportunities for each grade level band for each month's calendar. In our efforts to celebrate and recognize all the students, groups across the district, the students and staff will see display cases, library displays, and other things to celebrate all our students. Throughout last year, many high school students attended our events, voiced a strong desire to be part of making Rad a more integral part of the culture of the high school. So this year, we launched the Rad Student Group with 70+ students showing up to our first meeting of the year. This group will help run our events, advertise and promote within the school, and also will partner with other groups and sport teams and more. This month, we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. So we'll continue hosting our monthly community events. Please join us for our first one this year. It's Friday, September 23rd from 4:30 to 7:30 in the Door 1 parking lot at the high school. We'll be celebrating Latin culture and heritage with food, music, dancing, crafts, and a book fair. We'll also have a performance from some of our dual language classes, so we hope to see you there. I have a highlight for the upcoming event, October. We have Keep Shining, The World Needs Your Light, celebrating abilities and inclusivity on Wednesday, October 26th. This will include a talent show, performance resources for students and families, a book fair, local businesses and vendors that support and provide opportunities to our students. And my last update is about newcomers and English language learners. So over the past few years, we had a greater increase in English language learners in our district. This growth brings a greater diversity of language and culture. 5 years ago, we were servicing 170 students. 2 years ago, we had 400 English language learners. This year, we're starting the year with almost 700 English learners across our pre-K through grade 12. This is a 400% increase in the past 5 years. Languages with the greatest representation include Spanish, Polish, Tagalog, Urdu, Romanian, Ukrainian, and Russian. Some of these students are newcomers. Newcomers are students who are completely new to the country and have little to no English. In order to achieve integration into American schools, newcomer students and their families need different kinds of support. A welcoming environment, high-quality academic programs designed to meet not only the academic needs, but the language development needs of all our students. There are over 32 newcomers in our district this year. There's many things that we have been planning to support our students. Bilingual books have been purchased to represent the language and culture of our students. We look forward to continuing to add to our collection and working on having our kids represented in our curriculum. Professional development opportunities are available and will continue to be provided to our EL teachers. Last year, in addition to our dual language teachers, we hired a Polish-speaking teacher to provide native language support to our students. In order to best support our families and students with limited English, we plan to hire a bilingual family liaison that is fluent in Polish, Ukrainian, and Russian. This staff member will help support families by providing access to native language support, embracing family engagement, and building a cultural bridge between families and our school community. With that, I'm open for any questions, and I could also update the board with Caratola.
Yeah, I have a couple questions, but if you could.
Caratola first? Okay, so Caratola, we have 2 trainees, September 8th and September 12th for administrators. Our first early release date that is September 21. We'll have the training that is it's longer, definitely for social workers, psychologists, and counselors. After we have all our staff trained and our administrators, we will roll out that to staff on September 22 and to the community on the 23rd. So September 23rd, the community will be receiving information after we are, we finalize all the training with our staff.
Thank you for that.
No.
Go ahead.
You go.
You talked about the, Rad in October. I forgot, but I didn't hear what you said it was called.
It's it's Keep Shining, the World Needs Your Light, celebrating abilities and inclusivity.
And you said it was going to be a talent show?
We're still working with the team, because I think it's a very delicate subject and how we're gonna involve all of our students and not only our students with different abilities. So it's gonna be a combination of the students. It's not only gonna be the students with different abilities.
So it would be, so Jenna and special needs, you're saying it would be a whole inclusive?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. And so, communication from that, will that be coming from like Ms. Shaddle or from Jill Shadle, or how will parents know if their child wants to participate?
They will be sending, we have our meeting next week for October. So I will be meeting with the Rad committee that is, composed with staff members and students, and from after the meeting, we'll be sending communication to parents to authorize the participation of their students.
Excellent. And so when we've got the students running, having their meetings, are their events paralleling with the theme for the month that we're using? Like at the high school, when we said the students were doing, so, because at the high school, we have like our buddy club, junior buddies. So, what the students are doing, is that paralleling with the Rad? Are they two things? Or
no, it's one thing. It's the Rad committee, and the students, that was coming from the students asked to be participating one way, two, in different ways. So our first meeting was like 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. We didn't expect to have 73 students. To be honest, we expected a small group of 20 students. It was a standing room only. It was really good to see how kids would get involved. We don't, like, for example, that's a great example in October. So in November, they're going to run some of the stations in September. So we have one that is, the kids will be coloring and they will be running that station. Another station will be the students, they will help in the book fair. They're going to be helpers, but October, I can see a perfect match with the buddy clubs, yes. So we didn't have the plans for October yet. Mm-hmm. We have some ideas, and we'll have our meeting. So I will gladly inform the board in our next board meeting.
Okay. All right. I appreciate it. Last question. I see a lot on social media. A lot of families are bringing in foreign exchange students. So is that part of some of the ELL as well, or do our foreign exchange students come in?
It could be. We last year, I think we have one. We don't have right now this newcomer. Newcomer is a label that the state of Illinois give up. So it has to be a student that is first time in the country. So the first year, the student is a newcomer. So we have different, like, for example, they didn't take some of the state tests in the English part. So there's very specific regulations for the newcomers. Those students are a little different. In our experience, the foreign students normally have a different level of English. These students literally are coming from, for example, our students are coming from Ukraine. They have no English because most of their education was not in our language. So this totally.
Our foreign exchange program is completely separate. We work with specific companies to bring and coordinate that exchange with those families.
Okay.
And as part of that, I believe we cap it. There's no formal cap, but we cap it at 4 students per year. Okay. And Karen Miller, one of the counselors at the high school, has always been that liaison to work with a couple of the different companies. But the families that students that are foreign exchange students stay with, is a very completely different match than a newcomer that comes over. There are no requirements for a newcomer to come. Foreign exchange students typically have a very strong grasp of the English language so they can be successful.
Okay.
Because typically, English language learning programs aren't connected with a foreign exchange program. They already have a strong grasp of English.
Got it.
So
Okay.
it's different, much different level of service.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's,
If I may, being somebody of Ukrainian descent, and you probably know that I speak the language, if there's something that I can do to bridge a gap while you're looking for somebody to hire full-time into that role, please reach out to me. It's deeply personal to me, and those students coming from the environment that they have, with schools being blown up and families just being disintegrated with what's going on, please reach out. I'm very willing to help any way I can.
Well, Mrs. Wright, yeah, you're right, that the whole social emotional needs of our students too. So I think we have a person in that is already applied, and
Great.
we are very lucky to have that person. But definitely, we always will need, even just the contact with somebody that speaks your language in the classroom and read aloud, that means a lot for us.
And by no means am I trying to insert myself and
absolutely.
stepping from a board role and usurping anybody's job or anything like that. It's just something that's very deeply personal. And again, if I can do anything to help, please do reach out.
We will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry. Items 15 is President's Report. Passed tonight. We'll move on to 16, which is community relations, youth outreach. Lindsay, do you have anything on your employee sheet or anything?
Yes, thank you. 16.1 are the FOIA requests for the month. That should be in your packet. And unless there's any questions on that, I'm going to move it to Ms. Lemoyne, who has a short report.
Thank you. So I just have a brief update tonight to keep you updated on one of our annual measures this year for the strategic plan. Last year, one of our goals was to conduct a job satisfaction survey. So this year was really a priority for us, since it was a little bit of a better time to gauge our staff, and having the year that we had, or the start of the year that we had with staff engagement for our Orange Frog training and the student culture of learning that you saw earlier, we thought it would be a good time to kind of gauge their feelings on the job. So all staff were given a few questions related to their work and how it furthers the district's mission, as well as their relationships with their peers and their colleagues, their building leadership, if they feel safe at work, if they feel valued, heard, just general job satisfaction. And then our certified staff were also given the opportunity to respond to some of the specific culture of learning pieces that they emphasize in their classroom. So if they saw a difference in building relationships with their students, the social emotional well-being of their students, understanding their individual needs in the classrooms, as well as establishing that academic rigor and establishing routines and protocols in the classroom. So we've gotten some really good feedback thus far. We have about 400 staff members who have responded to the survey. It'll be open throughout the weekend as well, and staff will get a reminder tomorrow to respond if they have not already. We've gotten some really good qualitative feedback as well of staff giving us an idea of some of the activities that they've implemented in their classrooms, whether that's specific team building activities or things that they've done year to year that they find really successful and have worked to strengthen the rapport and the relationships that they have with their students. So in working to develop this survey with our curriculum department, we're really excited to take that data and continue this momentum with our staff. And then this is a survey as well that we can continue to leverage at different points during the year. So to gauge the growth of our students as well as the satisfaction of our staff over the course of the entire school year. Obviously, we've had a positive first few weeks, but as the year goes on, being able to use that resource to keep in touch with our staff and really utilize their perspectives. If you have any questions, I can answer those. Otherwise, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay.
18 is policy committee.
That is me. So it looks like we have first reading for the new policy for body-worn cameras. Dr. Rowe?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Marino. So you're probably aware that in Illinois last year they passed a law, an omnibus law that pertains to law enforcement. And one of the tenets of that law is the requirement that by 2025, all police officers are outfitted with a body-worn camera. And in preparation for that, we have obviously 3 different agencies that work with us, with our campus resource officers, bless you. And Lake in the Hills has gotten out in front of that and has already implemented that practice. So Officer Barham has her body-worn camera on her person in place now, whereas Algonquin and Huntley are evaluating a wider variety of systems that they'd like to use. Lake in the Hills was very satisfied with the system that they found. And actually, I spoke with Chief Frick just this week, and she raved about it and said it's been going really well. But the point being, Huntley and Algonquin are taking a slower approach to implementing. They don't have to do so until 2025. That being said, through collaboration with our legal counsel, we need to have a policy on how body-worn cameras would be utilized in the school district to not only protect the students, the district, and also our officers through our lens. So, as you know, that we share employment status of those officers in terms of their compensation. However, they are employees of the police department that they work for. So the couple of points that I want to make sure that we're in total transparency about it at this first reading here for any discussion you may have in your consideration is in the 4th paragraph there, the word incident. And that word incident is a trigger for me in that the use of the body-worn cameras is when one of our officers is responding to a specific incident that they are there to support. They are not on all the time. They are not turned on for every interaction with a student. If an administrator makes the call for assistance or calls the officer specifically, that would be the point where the officer would turn that on. So that's an important designation. The other important designation, and Mr. Guerin pointed out quickly after first reading as a member of the committee, was the we live in the land of FOIAs, and we've seen an influx of FOIAs over the recent months. And just for total clarity, the police officers are employees of the police department. Therefore, these records, although they are student records, are maintained by the police department. And the police department would be the avenue that someone would have to go obtain access to those videos. The school district does not keep those and would not have access to share them immediately upon parent request. So just a little bit of a different process, given the fact that an officer, if their camera is turned on or activated, it would be in response to some form of an incident. Therefore, they're an officer responding to something in our schools, not as just a helper who's talking to the student. So with that, I'll take any questions, but it is our belief that this is an important policy for us to adopt. Press is a little bit behind in terms of putting this in place. However, we worked with Joe Miller and our legal counsel at Miller Holland Triggs, and actually that's not Miller Holland Triggs, that is Addison Fritz, excuse me, in cooperation. He handles all of our student behavior management issues, so he helped us develop this, and I'd like to move this forward to next month for second reading.
I have a question, or I think I have a question. When we talk about incidents, and we're talking about privacy, would a medical incident wouldn't turn that on first?
Dean, I believe if he's still here, might be able to answer a little bit more specifically. Depends. If they're specifically calling an officer where he's going to serve in his role as an officer, perhaps. I would say a better, a more tangible example would be as if, say, there's a fight. That's obvious, right? But the medical incident, the officer in the school is typically not the first person who's on point. It's still a school administrator until the paramedic arrives. Mr. Dean, the question was, would an incident where a body-worn camera be officially activated if one of our CROs is in response to an incident, be a medical incident, so that if there's a seizure or a student is needing medical attention, would that body-worn camera be activated?
Yeah,
Probably the discretion of the
It
officer.
would be the discretion of the officer at that time. As you know, reading through that, if it is a common area, there is really no expectation. It can be on, if it is a private area, if a crime is being committed or was committed, they have the opportunity to turn that off.
I think the important note there is this does live with the officer at his or her discretion as to when they feel it's necessary. And it's for not only their protection, but the protection of our students.
Correct. It's just like this.
Just curious how
I'm
they train.
curious.
How are they trained? What is the right line for them in their training that?
Again, they would be following their SOPs at that point, of when their standard
SOP is standard operating procedure.
Standard operating procedures of when.
Yeah, we are educators, we love our acronyms, but yours don't always jive.
So it'd have to be followed by that. And generally speaking, is if a crime is going to be committed or one has been committed, and again, it would be adopted.
And this then is not going to affect our policy with other people recording things. Like, we've done all, things are being recorded, somebody else start recording. Has that question gone through legal?
Well, I think there's, in terms of the body worn camera policy itself, someone else recording something would have no bearing on how that's operated. Our students record things all the time, and it depends on their intent and what they've captured. It could be, it has aided us in investigations, and it has gotten students in trouble for their contributions to things, because it can certainly lead to bullying, it can certainly lead to documenting and contributing to a negative incident, and students can be consequenced for that sort of thing, but they also, if we have a video of something in our camera and we catch it clearly, it can also be used to assist. I don't want to sound like as if I'm encouraging it, I'm encouraging, not encouraging students to use their personal devices to record anything. I don't think that's helpful, but, typically it's going to cause you more trouble than not, I guess is my point.
Yeah, generally, if I could just speak.
Sure.
Yeah, generally, if it hinders the learning environment, that's when that line is crossed, that discretion.
Thank you for clarifying that, I appreciate it. So now what I'm doing here is motion to move it to a second reading, correct?
There's actually no action, it's just information only.
Right.
Okay.
It'll come back in the October committee of the whole, and at that point, you would motion to be approved as a regular.
Okay. All right.
We had a long discussion about this as well, so we've all refreshed our memory about the formal process when we introduce a policy, and it's not just through press.
Yeah.
So if I'm hearing correctly, is it COW that we will discuss the BWCs for the CROs? And bring, regarding SOPs, to bring all those TLAs together in one place. And TLAs are a three-letter acronym for a three-letter acronym. I just want to make sure I got all those alphabets correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we can move on to the consent agenda, item 19. Okay, is there any item that anybody would like pulled from the consent agenda? No, nobody wanting anything pulled. Therefore, I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Grady? Grady, can we have a roll call?
Mr. Troy?
Yes.
Mrs. Maiorino? Yes. Mr. Quagliano?
Yes.
Mr. Guerin?
Yes.
Mr. Gentry? Mrs. Melendi? Mr. Craddy?
Yes.
Motion passes. Item 20, we have one action item. One is the supplemental purchase orders. Does anybody have any discussion on those? No discussion. I'll make a motion to approve the supplemental purchase orders, report, and supplemental accounts payable as presented in the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
From Mr. Troy. Roll call, please.
Mr. Guerin?
Yes.
Mrs. Maiorino?
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano?
Yes.
Mr. Craddy?
Yes.
Mr. Troy?
Yes.
Mr. Gentry? Mrs. Melendi?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Item 21 is adjournment. I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 8:21. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Myrano. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.